Welcome to Module 4, where we delve into the structures that shape our collective lives. This module examines the fundamental social institutions that organize society and explores how collective action drives social transformation. We'll investigate family, education, religion, economy, and government, analyzing their interconnected roles in maintaining social order while simultaneously adapting to the forces of change. Social institutions are established patterns of behavior organized around fundamental human needs. They provide the framework through which societies accomplish essential tasks, from raising children to producing goods and services. These institutions are remarkably stable, yet constantly evolving, responding to technological advances, cultural shifts, and collective demands for change. We'll explore both their manifest functions, the intended, obvious purposes, and their latent functions, the unintended consequences that emerge from institutional practices. This dual perspective reveals how institutions shape individual lives while reproducing broader social patterns. In this module, we'll identify major social institutions and analyze their essential functions in organizing collective life and meeting societal needs. We'll examine family transformations, explore educational systems, and investigate religious perspectives. We'll also discuss economic and political power and understand the mechanisms driving social transformation, including collective behavior and social change. Each objective is designed to deepen our understanding of how these institutions operate and influence our lives. Our journey through Module 4 will cover 5 major topics: the family, education, religion, economy, and government, and social change. Each topic will provide insights into the diversity, functions, and contemporary challenges faced by these institutions. We'll explore socialization, inequality, reform, and collective action, offering a comprehensive view of how these elements interact within society. We begin with Part 1, the family, the most fundamental social institution. Families are the cornerstone of society, influencing individual identity, socialization, and cultural continuity. We'll explore the diverse forms families take and the essential functions they perform, providing a foundation for understanding broader social dynamics. The sociological definition of family extends far beyond the nuclear family model that dominated mid-20th century American discourse. A family is a social group characterized by common residence, economic cooperation, and reproduction, but these elements manifest in remarkably diverse forms across cultures and historical periods. Contemporary sociology recognizes that families are socially constructed rather than biologically determined. This perspective acknowledges single-parent households, blended families, same-sex parent families, multi-generational households, and chosen families as legitimate family forms. Each configuration fulfills essential family functions while adapting to specific social, economic, and cultural contexts. In modern society, families take on various forms, each with unique characteristics and challenges. We have nuclear families, extended families, single-parent families, blended families, same-sex parent families, and chosen families. These diverse configurations reflect broader social changes, including shifting gender roles, economic transformations, legal reforms, and evolving cultural values regarding marriage, parenting, and kinship. From a functionalist perspective, families perform critical tasks that maintain social stability and ensure societal reproduction. While family forms vary dramatically, these core functions remain remarkably consistent across cultures and historical periods. Families serve as the first and most influential agent of socialization, transmitting language, norms, and cultural practices to new generations. They regulate sexual activity, provide social placement, and facilitate economic cooperation, pooling resources and labor to maximize production. These functions underpin the social networks and life chances that challenge meritocratic ideals. American families navigate unprecedented challenges that reshape family life and challenge traditional assumptions about family stability and form. Economic pressures, changing gender roles, and evolving cultural values converge to transform how families function. Rising divorce rates and their impact, along with the prevalence of single-parent households, highlight the complexity of modern family dynamics. The feminization of poverty describes how single mothers experience disproportionate poverty rates due to wage gaps, caregiving responsibilities, and inadequate social support systems. Cohabitation, unmarried couples living together in romantic relationships, has increased dramatically over the past 5 decades, fundamentally altering courtship patterns and challenging traditional marriage norms. What was once stigmatized is now normalized, with approximately 2/3 of couples cohabiting before marriage. Sociological research reveals complex patterns. Cohabitation before engagement correlates with slightly higher divorce rates, possibly due to selection effects rather than causation. However, cohabitation is increasingly viewed as a legitimate relationship form rather than merely a trial marriage. Part 2. Education, the institution that shapes minds and reproduces society. Education represents one of society's most powerful institutions for transmitting culture, allocating opportunity, and legitimizing social hierarchies. We'll explore how schools perform both manifest functions, like literacy and numeracy, and latent functions, like socialization and cultural transmission. This examination reveals how education influences individual trajectories and societal structures. Education represents one of society's most powerful institutions for transmitting culture, allocating opportunity, and legitimizing social hierarchies. While Americans typically view education as the great equalizer, a meritocratic pathway to social mobility, sociological analysis reveals how schools simultaneously open and close doors based on students' social origins. Schools perform both manifest functions, teaching literacy, numeracy, and vocational skills, and latent functions, including childcare, peer socialization, and the hidden curriculum that teaches obedience, punctuality, and respect for authority. These latent functions often prove more consequential for students' life trajectories than formal academic content. Schools teach the dominant culture's values, norms, and behavioral expectations, preparing students for participation in broader social institutions like work and citizenship. Educational institutions preserve and transmit society's heritage across generations, ensuring cultural continuity. Schools also integrate diverse students, promoting social cohesion and shared identity. They serve as melting pots where students from various backgrounds interact. Beyond formal curricula, schools provide childcare, create peer networks, teach time discipline, and sometimes address social problems like hunger and healthcare. Despite meritocratic ideals, educational systems consistently reproduce existing social inequalities. Students from advantaged backgrounds systematically outperform their less privileged peers, not due to innate ability differences, but because of structural advantages that compound across educational careers. The achievement gap between rich and poor students has widened over recent decades, even as overall educational attainment has increased. The paradox reveals how education can simultaneously expand opportunity while reinforcing stratification. Tracking, the practice of grouping students by perceived ability, represents one mechanism through which schools reproduce inequality. Students assigned to higher tracks receive enriched curricula, more experienced teachers, and greater expectations for success. Lower track students experience watered-down content, behavioral management, and diminished opportunities. Research consistently shows that track placement reflects social class and race more than actual academic potential. This practice, though justified by ability differences, perpetuates inequality and limits social mobility. American public schools receive most funding from local property taxes, creating dramatic disparities between wealthy and poor districts. This funding structure means that students in affluent areas attend well-resourced schools with small classes, updated materials, and extensive extracurricular activities, while students in poor areas experience overcrowded classrooms, outdated textbooks, and limited enrichment opportunities. These disparities translate into vastly different educational experiences and outcomes, with funding gaps reinforcing rather than counteracting broader patterns of inequality. Substantial gaps in test scores, graduation rates, and college attendance persist along lines of race and social class. Black and Latino students, on average, score lower on standardized tests and complete college at lower rates than white and Asian students. Similarly, low-income students of all races underperform their affluent peers. These gaps reflect cumulative disadvantages including underfunded schools, lower teacher quality, fewer learning resources at home, food insecurity, housing instability, and limited access to enrichment activities, not differences in potential or family values. Educational reforms aim to address these disparities and improve outcomes for all students. Standards-based reform movements like No Child Left Behind and Common Core attempt to establish uniform standards and accountability through high-stakes testing. Critics argue these reforms reward curricular compliance, teaching to tests, and punished schools serving disadvantaged students. School choice and voucher programs promise alternatives to traditional public schools, but evidence suggests that choice exacerbates segregation and drains resources from traditional public schools. Equity-focused initiatives implement weighted funding formulas, universal pre-K, community schools, and restorative justice practices. These reforms address structural barriers, but face political and financial constraints. Part 3. Religion, examining the sacred through sociological lenses. Religion poses unique challenges for sociological analysis. Sociologists don't evaluate religious truth claims, but instead examine religion as a social phenomenon, studying how religious beliefs, practices, and institutions shape individual lives and societal structures. This approach, pioneered by Durkheim and Weber, treats religion as both a personal experience and a collective institution. Religion poses unique challenges for sociological analysis. Sociologists don't evaluate religious truth claims, but instead examine religion as a social phenomenon, studying how religious beliefs, practices, and institutions shape individual lives and societal structures. Emil Durkheim viewed religion as a system of beliefs and practices related to sacred things, those set apart and forbidden. Religion creates social cohesion by uniting believers into a moral community. Max Weber emphasized religion's role in shaping economic behavior and social change. His famous thesis linked Protestant ethics to capitalist development, demonstrating how religious ideas motivate worldly action and transform social institutions. Religion encompasses beliefs, rituals, community, and personal experiences, shaping human behavior and guiding ethical conduct. Religious organizations vary from small cults to large denominations, each with unique structures and relationships to mainstream culture. Despite high levels of religious belief, participation in religious activities in modern American society is declining, reflecting a paradox. Secularization theory suggests that modernization leads to religion's retreat from public life, yet spiritual perspectives remain significant. Religious fundamentalism reacts to modernity by emphasizing sacred texts and traditional values, influencing social and political spheres. Civil religion in America blends national identity with religious imagery, providing shared rituals and symbols that unite diverse citizens. Exploring the intersection of economy and government reveals how power, resources, and political organization shape societies. Economic systems organize production and distribution through various models, including capitalism, socialism, and mixed economies. Capitalism is driven by private ownership and market competition, promising freedom and efficiency, but facing criticism for inequality. Socialism emphasizes collective ownership and welfare, contrasting with capitalism's market-driven approach, yet both influence modern economies. Mixed economies blend capitalist and socialist elements, aiming to balance market efficiency with social welfare. The labor force is shaped by globalization and technology, transforming work and impacting identity, access to resources, and security. Precarious work and the gig economy challenge traditional employment, affecting economic security and worker rights. Political systems organize power and authority, varying in how they distribute power and balance freedom with security. Democracy promises rule by the people, yet power dynamics reveal complexities in representation and influence. Authoritarianism and totalitarianism concentrate power, limiting political competition and civil liberties. Power, authority, and the state are defined by traditional, charismatic, and legal rational bases, shaping governance and societal acceptance. Social change and collective behavior explore how societies transform over time, driven by various forces and pressures. Social change is driven by technology, population, environment, and conflict, leading to complex transformations in society. Sources of social change include technological innovations, environmental factors, population dynamics, and conflict, reshaping societies. Culture evolves through innovation, which involves the creation of new ideas, practices, and technologies, and diffusion, which is the spread of cultural elements between societies. Globalization accelerates cultural diffusion, spreading everything from fast food to political ideologies across borders. However, cultural change isn't neutral. Powerful societies often export their culture while importing less, leading to cultural imperialism. Cultural lag occurs when material culture changes faster than non-material culture, causing social media to spread before we understood its impact on mental health, democracy, and social cohesion. Collective behavior refers to spontaneous, unstructured social action outside institutional channels. Unlike social movements, collective behavior is relatively temporary and often emerges in ambiguous situations. Crowds, riots, protests, fads, fashions, rumors, and urban legends are all examples of collective behavior. Understanding these patterns reveals how ordinary people create new social norms when existing ones don't provide clear guidance. Social movements are organized, sustained efforts by large groups to promote or resist social change. Unlike spontaneous collective behavior, movements develop formal organizations, articulate goals, recruit members strategically, and pursue change through various tactics. Successful movements require three elements: opportunity, mobilizing structures, and framing processes. Movements face challenges including repression, factionalism, co-optation, and participant burnout. Social movements can be categorized into four types: alternative movements, which seek limited change in individuals; redemptive movements, which target radical transformation of individuals; reformative movements, which seek limited changes to existing social structures; and revolutionary movements, which seek total transformation of society and values. Each type has distinct goals and methods, reflecting the diverse ways people seek change. Social movements typically progress through identifiable stages, though not all movements complete this cycle. Understanding these stages helps explain why some movements succeed while others fail or fade away. The stages include emergence, where movements gain visibility; coalescence, where leadership structures and strategies develop; bureaucratization, where formal organizations and paid staff emerge; and decline, which can occur through success, failure, or internal division. Theories of social movements help explain their dynamics and motivations. Relative deprivation theory suggests movements emerge when people perceive a gap between their expectations and actual conditions. Resource mobilization theory focuses on acquiring resources necessary for movement success. Political process theory emphasizes political opportunities and mobilizing structures. New social movement theory considers identity, culture, and lifestyle rather than economic issues as central to movements. The American Civil Rights Movement exemplifies successful reformative social movements. It combined grassroots organizing, charismatic leadership, strategic nonviolence, and exploitation of political opportunities to challenge segregation and disenfranchisement of African Americans. Key factors in its success included strong organization, leadership, and strategic use of media. Despite its success, the movement faced challenges in the late 1960s due to internal divisions and backlash, inspiring contemporary movements like Black Lives Matter. Globalization represents the defining force shaping contemporary social change, creating opportunities and challenges through interconnectedness. Economic globalization involves transnational corporations and global supply chains, while cultural globalization spreads media, migration, and tourism. Population globalization impacts migration patterns, and technological globalization connects people across borders. These forces facilitate transnational movements and pose challenges to established cultural norms. Contemporary social movements address issues from racial justice to climate change, employing new tactics while drawing on historical traditions. Digital technologies enable rapid mobilization, but also surveillance and repression. Movements like Black Lives Matter, the climate justice movement, Me Too movement, and global right-wing populism illustrate how they adapt to changing contexts, challenging power structures, and advocating for systemic change. The sociological imagination helps us understand how individual lives are shaped by broader social structures and forces. Institutions reveal how they socialize us, solve conflicts, and distribute resources. Yet institutions aren't static. They evolve through technology, conflict, and collective action. Understanding the sociological imagination helps us see how personal experiences connect to broader social patterns and how we can play a role in shaping social change.